Well, our closing moments on the review of the Anambra elections here on Sunrise Daily. Joining us this time is Ubani. He's the chairman of Nigeria Bar Association, Ikeja branch. Good morning.
Yes, hi.
Good. Well, we have heard a whole lot. Now we have finally heard from the APC, and they say a whole lot of anomalies transpired. And the question is, why didn't they make formal complaint so that some arrests can be made? For Joe Boko, he said some actually were out distributing or sharing money, while others didn't actually do what was right on that day, to the extent that logistics was a big problem for INEC.
Well, I don't know why they have not lodged a formal complaint, but it's also important they do that. But even prior to the election, they've been crying that the election may not be free and fair. And I don't know what they saw. But it turned out to be that INEC messed up this election, even by their own admission. They promised that this election is going to be a litmus test, towards the election of 2015, and they are prepared for it. But there are institutional institutional things that usually conspire against election. And most of the problems are systemic, and unless we address them and remove those things, those cancer from the root, they will keep on repeating itself. 2011 election was regarded as a bit bait, and people praised it because of what had transpired before 2011 election. You remember 2007, 2003. So when we now saw a bit of fairness in that of 2011, we praised it. But the point is that there were still problems. There were still deep-rooted problems. Issue of logistics, issue of having the voters list that is very authentic. Because in this election, I understand that they gave out voters list to the various political parties. Now, those voters list that they now use now for the conduct of the election was different from what they gave to the political parties. And that is one of the allegations they are making. And of course, that we presented before the court. So if you give me a voters list for me to rely on, and then I went into election believing that this is the authentic voters list, and then you now use a different voters list. Remember the election that also brought Obi, 4 years ago? People complained that Anambrans were disenfranchised. How many percentage voted in that election? Now we have 1.7 million that registered in Anambra. Calculate all the entire people that even voted in this election. What's the percentage? Are they up to 30%? So, yes.
The voting list has changed. Is that enough grounds for a rescheduling of their election?
Yeah, if you come to vote and your name is not found in the list, and they're telling you that your picture is not even there, so you are disenfranchised. So how can you now regard that election as free and fair? In law,
there are no grounds to cancel the entire process and redo it.
Yeah, well, the INEC said they cannot. But for God's sake, if larger percentage of people that you call registered voters were disenfranchised, we're not allowed to vote, can you regard that election as free and fair? Can you regard that the person that has emerged as a credible, candidate, for that particular electoral process? So what I'm saying is that, by and large, we say in law, justice must not only be done, but must be seen. If you're having an election in which I should lose, but let me see that I lost, based upon certain principles that I didn't campaign enough, or there was free and fair election, or things that you are supposed to do by way of providing logistics, you provided it and all that, but I lost because Nigerians did not vote for me. But let it not be that from you, the umpire, there are so many irregularities on your own part that have, made me now begin to raise doubt whether I should have won the election, but for your inefficiency and all that. That's what they're now saying. Look, for INEC's inefficiency, even by their own admission, why can't you, go ahead and cancel the election, which may be too costly? But the point is that this election was one of the worst in the country, and everyone has even acknowledged it. And there are reasons why it turned out to be that way. If you want me to give you the reason, I will go ahead and give you the reason.
Please go ahead.
As I said earlier, it's systemic. It's also institutional. Now, INEC may have deployed over 10,000 workers for that election in Anambra. How many were under their, direct control in terms of staff? Maybe staff that is available for INEC in Anambra, maybe 300 workers that owe loyalty to INEC because they are employees. Now, when election comes, you now go and employ what we call ad hoc staff, NYSC, students, graduates, and then all that, people that you cannot even guarantee their integrity. People you don't even know who they owe their loyalty to come and conduct an election that is so serious, electoral process, and they are more. You can't guarantee their integrity. And again, they mess up the system.
Mr. Ubani, they've always given them the praise, especially when elections are won by some other political parties. They say Jega is fantastic. The independent or the state electoral officers were awesome. But when it doesn't go in their way, they call for resignation of such people. Is it that over time we have tried to cover up some of the inadequacies of these electoral officers or of INEC over time?
Yeah. ABGA, from what they have said, this election is the best election ever. I mean, because they have won. So over the years, we have covered our our nakedness, and we've been hiding it. But some of us that do not belong to any political party will be the person to tell this country the truth, nothing but the truth, that things are not okay. When somebody who comes into politics today becomes a multi-billionaire, he has access to the treasury, and like a governor, and he's not being monitored properly by the State House of Assembly. He's so powerful, and he becomes a multi-millionaire. Immediately you win. And as long as you have so much access to the treasury of a particular state when you win election, there is no way you will not do anything humanly possible to be there. You will borrow money. If you want to be a governor in Nigeria today, the first question they will ask you, do you have up to 2 billion naira in your account? First and foremost, before you even talk, you want to be a governor. I mean, to contest. Do you have up to 2 billion? Go and ask all these governors how much they spend. I hear one of the governors, one of the contestants is asking INEC to refund him his money and all that, because the man spent so much. So what we're saying is that electoral process that encourages so much
isn't that one of the problems? Why should anyone spend that much when, if you know that truly you've been able to, campaign effectively, and the people actually need you, they want you to be their leader?
Yes.
Must you spend that amount of money? Because that's the quarrel we hear with these candidates, that they are also calling some of these people to return what they've actually given them.
I agree with you. It's a very brilliant question. But the system has been so bastardized in Nigeria that if you want to win election, you must give them fiscal money because they don't trust you. The moment you get there, you don't do anything that will affect them directly. You forget them completely. So this is their own turn to collect the little they can from you. Because they know immediately you get there, you don't get back to them. You will be going with siren, and if possible, be driving them into the gutter, and if possible, kill them on the road. So why would they now wait for you to go in there? They collect their own share before. Are you following me? And you do that with structure. In all the local wards, the man in the ward must go and distribute. You give the widows, you give the church. Many people come to ask for money at that point in time in order for them to vote for you. You see, when they are going in that campaign, you see all those people that follow them. Most of them are not even registered voters, but they will all be there to share the money. At the end, they say this is you think that you are going to win because of the large crowd you see in the campaign, who may not be registered voters. That's another issue. Because the political parties are not doing much in order to be sure that those people that attend their political campaigns are even registered voters, and they will even cast their vote during the election day. And secondly, when INEC distribute, bring what you call the voters list for people to go and check whether their names are on the list. How many times do we see political parties mobilize their members and say, please go and ensure that your name is on the voters list because election is next tomorrow and all that? How many of them do that? They only gather, they are only very happy when they see large crowd, and they think that those large crowd represent the total number of voters that will vote for them during the election. So there are a lot of things to be done. But what I'm trying to say about the issue of money is that Nigerians are now saying, look, these people, they don't remember us when they get there. So as much as we can extract from them, let us get from them before they get there. Because when they get there, they don't even remember even the first. So you see money, distributed at the ward level, at the local government level, at the state level. So much money that if you don't spend such money, nobody even gets you mentioned. There is one political candidate, I don't want to mention his name, that became one of the leading contenders because he brought out money and he spent money. And people were even rating as going to be around number 1 or even number 2. But look at what the election result has shown.
I think the people don't have any right whatsoever to complain. If you know you have actually collected money, then you shouldn't question these people when finally they come into office. But let's take our minds back to 2011, the kinds of praise we got, or INEC got from the Nigerian people. What do you think went wrong now that people have started calling for the resignation of some people and asking INEC to back down, that it is so unprepared for future elections?
Now, the praise that INEC got, people were carried away. I gave you the reason why. We have had election in 2003, 2007, and then 2011. That of 2011 was a bit of an improvement to all the previous elections, especially when we were coming on from Maurice, who that conducted the worst election. And so somebody came and gave some level of credibility. Not that some of us were cautious in praising INEC Jega at that time and said, look, there were some irregularities. There were even the presidential election. President Jonathan would have won, fair and square, without things that have people still padded the result and all that. we are saying these things are not right. Let's get it right. And one of the things we want, we want to suggest, even in this particular program before I leave, because it's issue of policy, for us to get it right as a nation, is that, one, we must reduce the level of access to money by political office holders, sir. Let issue of going to governance be the issue of service. The way it's been done in developed countries, when somebody is coming into governance, he has succeeded in his private enterprise.
How can we affect